You know the Magna culture, right? Nobody works for me. You people work with me. I'm working for you. The history of mankind has always been dominated by the golden rule. Here's the gold makes the rule. But I don't want to be dominated by anyone. If I feel that strong, I should not be able to dominate somebody either.
Hi, my name's Iwona Czarnecka, and we're here to talk about the New Wave Common Sense Business Association. I'm joined here by Mars Callahan, writer-director, joining us from the US to talk about not only the New Wave Common Sense Business Association, but also the Canadian Economic Charter of Rights. Mars, how did you hear about us, and what piqued your interest in these Canadian initiatives?
Well, it's amazing. First of all, thank you for having me. It's an amazing initiative. It's one that I believe the United States should adopt immediately. And it's only, common sense is part of the name of the association. But I've actually started a petition in the United States about 6 months ago to change the terminology common sense. I want to rename it. I want to call it rare sense. So it just certainly
It definitely is a rarity.
It's not that common. So if common sense these days, I think we need to call it rare sense. Maybe the Canadian New Wave rare sense economic charter might be
needed sense.
Yeah. No, but if anyone just looks at the cliche, it's so hard to find good help these days. People in America don't feel like they want to work. They can live off the government dole. They can stay at home and live off their parents maybe. It's so difficult to find good quality work. But if you empower the workers, if you give them profit participation, then you're going to get a guy who wakes up in the morning excited about coming to work. If he's on an assembly line or a small business or a large business, he's going to take pride in his work. He's going to work extra hard because he feels a proprietary sense that this is my business too, right? This is something that means something to him. Dollars, I always say, there's lots of people that have lots of dollars, but they have no sense. You have to have rare sense because it's not that common. You have to apply basic human principles to business and economics because, like a very dear friend of mine said, if the economy doesn't work, nothing works. So you have to have that economic stability. And if you empower your workers, they're going to come to work enthusiastic. You're not going to get a guy that's looking at the clock, waiting to clock out, phoning in his job. You're going to get a guy who's proud because for everybody, money isn't everything.
Yeah.
The pride of ownership, the pride of a hard day's work, and that inherent energy, the byproduct of that, the domino effect of that, or the butterfly effect of that is so pervasive that you're going to find small and mid-sized businesses, all the way up to large businesses, growing and expanding. And we've found that in examples that were revolutionary, much like Magna did with the profit participation with their workforce. And you saw just dynamic growth. And it wasn't something that was bottom line driven. You're not going to get in a boardroom and go to a pie chart and a PowerPoint presentation and really express all of the different things that are intangible that you're not going to see in some sort of metric or sort of,
It gives employees a sense of purpose.
That's exactly right. A man wants to, or a woman wants to wake up in the morning and they want to feel like they have a purpose, like they have something that their life means something. They're an important part of a team. When I'm making a movie, the person that's the background talent, what we call them extras, they often in Hollywood are treated like furniture, but they're not furniture. They're essential actors in the background that allow the entire film to work. If you don't have the background actors, you're going to have an empty Times Square, which only really works in Vanilla Sky. So you're going to need all those background actors, and they are just as important as Tom Cruise. You're not going to be, and people don't realize that with the attitude and altitude of people in higher positions or some positions in Hollywood that look down on, but we're all human beings, and every single one of us is part of an entire whole. Forget quantum physics and all of what that entails, but just common sense or rare sense. we're all part of a whole. And if we feel like our job is important and the owner of that business shows me that my job is important by sharing a piece of the profits, and we're all a connective team and a family, then watch the energy and the love and the creativity and the hard work that is not going to show up on a spreadsheet. It's not going to show up in a QuickBooks bottom line, but it's going to be there, and it's going to be that backbone of that business that causes it to grow.
You'll have loyalty from your employees, and you will eventually see it on your bottom line.
That is correct. It will present itself on the bottom line in ways that are unquantifiable.
Yeah. It's a win-win for the employees and for the business owners.
That's correct.
Are there other aspects of the economic charter that you believe should be instated as well in the U.S.?
I mean,
does the U.S. struggle with ballooning bureaucracy like we do here in Canada?
Most certainly. I mean, forgive me, I'm not a advocate student of Canada's economy per se, but in the U.S. we see it over and over again. Just the sense of like that again, like bottom line driven thought processes are just not ones that the people they feel are expendable. And when you put that care, that extra effort, that heart and soul into your own business, and you treat your employees like members of your family, where you care about their future as well. Every single person that's ever worked with me, and no one's ever worked for me, but every person that's ever worked with me, I know the names of their children. I know what they want to be when they grow up. And those hopes and dreams are they become part of my hopes and dreams. And at the end of every film that I make, in addition to the union wages and the pension, health, and welfare that we pay to all of our employees on our film and television projects, I also go on the last day of shooting to every single person, and well, not every single person. I look at the people who I know were part of the solution. I know who's been, dragging their behind on my set. I know who's working hard and not putting in their time clock and the overtime and the golden time and the double time. I know who's climbing the scaffolding at 1 o'clock in the morning in the rain to try to hang a light to get that shot that we desperately need. And I go and I hand a small envelope to the people that I saw working their butts off on my project. And they often open the envelope and they go, "What's this? Mr. Callahan, this is not necessary. You already pay me a fair wage." And I said, I know that if I saw you up on that scaffolding at 1 o'clock in the morning, busting your ass to get that shot, I know there's probably 10 things I didn't see that you did for me to help my movie become the project and the work of art that I hope it became, that I worked so hard to make it be. And if I know there's probably 10 things I didn't see. So this is just my personal, it doesn't come out of the production budget, it comes out of my own personal pocket. And that my personal pocket is the profit margin, right? So I in a sense, organically have for years participated in that economic charter of rights. And when I heard it reiterated up here in Canada, out of the mouths of people who I greatly respect, then I knew that I was, I had kindred spirit here. I knew I was with fellow family members up here. The work that Frank Stronach has pioneered in Canada for the Canadian people. There are not many people that have ever lived on planet Earth, not in ancient Egypt, not in the time of Alexander the Great, in ancient Rome, the British Empire. You can go across history. Not many people in the history of life on Earth have created 180,000 jobs, that have built factories in dozens of countries.
440 countries. No, 34 different countries, 440 factories. Yeah.
And so the work that a single individual and the impact that a single individual can have not just from an economic standpoint, but from a humanitarian standpoint. I have my own 501c3 and I have my own philanthropic work. And in one of those I wrote, because my philanthropic work surrounds education for children. And I always say, we have progressed so much and we've come so far economically, but I'm sorry, let me say that again. We have progressed so much and we have come so far technologically, but we are getting an F in humanity, and we need to do better. We need to treat our fellow man as we would like to be treated. Mr. Stronach often says the world is run by the golden rule. Those who have the gold make the rule. But there's another rule, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And not to be religious in context, but just humane in context. To be your brother's keeper, to be responsible for your fellow man as well. Because it's not good enough for any one of us to just get to the top of the mountain by ourselves. We want to be there together. It's no fun. I went to Paris one time when I was young, and I went to the top of the Eiffel Tower. I was by myself, and I was like, oh, wow, this is great. I'm at the top of the Eiffel Tower. But then I wanted to share it with somebody, and I had nobody there with me to share it with. And I was like, and as a teenager, I learned this lesson, and so I try to, all of the successes that I have and all the successes that I've seen Frank Stronach have, he shares them with his fellow man. And I think if we think of that as it pertains to the new wave, common sense, economic, what is it?
New Wave Common Sense Business Association.
Right? So,
and the Canadian Economic Charter.
And the Canadian Economic Charter. When you think of it in that way, it makes perfect sense. They are two parts of the same whole. So I think that if you can think of them that way, then it's very, very easy. It makes all the rare sense in the world.
It does make all the rare sense in the world, which is why we're advocating for bringing in an economic charter to Canada to fortify it under the Human Rights Charter, because without economic freedom, you are not a free person. And as writer-director Mars Callahan had said, it brings humanity back to the globe. If all of us lived, like you said, rising tides, bringing each other up together as partners. Thank you for joining us, Mars Callahan, and thank you for your insights.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing the work you're doing, because it's important.
Thank you.